as the deadline. AP correspondent Julie Walker reports the New York City Board of Elections is expected to finalize results of the mayoral primary today.
On the night of the New York City Democratic primary for mayor, progressive upstart Zohran Mamdani claimed victory after former Governor Andrew Cuomo conceded.
Tonight, we made history.
Today, the City Board of Elections expected to release results of ranked choice voting, where New Yorkers listed their top 5 candidates for office. Mamdani, a 33-year-old Democratic socialist and member of the state assembly, was virtually unknown when he launched his campaign. Cuomo had been the presumed favorite of the Democratic primary and says he will decide his future after rankings are released. He can run as an independent. That's what current Mayor Eric Adams is doing since he was not part of the Democratic primary. Julie Walker, New York.
Police say 3 senior leaders at the English hospital where nurse Lucy Letby worked have been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter. They were not named and were released on bail. Letby is serving multiple life sentences with no chance of release for killing 7 newborns and trying to kill 7 others between June 2015 and June 2016. This is AP News. Flossie has strengthened into a Category 1 hurricane off Mexico's southwestern Pacific coast. Its center is forecast to remain offshore, but several Mexican states can see up to 8 inches of rain into Wednesday. AP correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports heavy major flooding in central and southern China has led to deaths.
Heavy flooding in central and southern China has killed at least 9 people and displaced tens of thousands. State media says 8 people are missing in the worst-hit provinces of Henan, Hubei and Guizhou. Rivers have overtopped dikes and poured into city streets, housing complexes and shopping malls. Rapid urban development appears to have worsened the problem, and the Communist Party authorities, who control all media, have been especially reticent in their news releases about the toll floods have taken. Although China experiences flooding each summer, the images are some of the most dramatic in years, and many of them have spread on social media to avoid official censors.
I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the upper 80s. Winds out of the northwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Then for tonight, mostly clear with a low near 69. By Wednesday, a slight chance for showers and thunderstorms here late. Blend of clouds and sunshine develops high around 90. And Thursday, slight chance for rain and storms late with a high around 93. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 72.
DQ presents How to Make Your Summer Take Flight. Just head into DQ for a new Superman Cake Batter Cookie Dough Blizzard Treat. Treat your inner hero to an epic mix of sugar cookie dough, sprinkles, and cake batter flavor. Blend it all with legendary DQ soft serve, and it's enough to tempt Superman himself. Fly into DQ for our new Superman Cake Batter Cookie Dough Blizzard Treat before it's gone. And don't miss Superman. Only in theaters July 11th. DQ. Happy tastes good. Only at participating locations.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chu. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chu.
Good Tuesday morning, progressives, and welcome to the July 1st, 2025 edition of Choose Views. Yes, happy July 1st, everybody. It's July 1st, starting the second half of the year. We're off to the races, Devin. We made it through 6 months. How about that? Crazy. Yes, that's right. Catch us on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. And, of course, our Credo mobile phone and text line is 773-763-9278. Email me at richard@wcpt820.com and catch me on Substack. That's right. You know, you guys can also check me out on the socials. I mean, I do hang out a little bit on Instagram, Choose Views, and, different places like that. And every now and again, you'll see a post from me on X, because I do use it as a as a resource, because it's kind of where we are. It's painful as it might be. But catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can also catch me on Blue Sky. I'm there in Threads, just because we got to find out where people are. Talk about going where people are. That's kind of one of the things that we have to do. You can also, obviously, by getting our podcast, you'll be able to get Choose Views, short versions and long versions, and the featured interviews and all that good stuff. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez. Of course, The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath. Out Chicago, Scott and Ellen, they do such a great job, and they were wonderful on Sunday. The Big Picture is, I got a chance to chat with Edwin before the float took off, and then he and I were handing out stuff, so that was kind of fun. But make sure you check out all of our shows and make your way over to heartlandsignal.com, which is our digital platform. On today's show, I know we'll be taking some calls in a little bit, but we'll have a gentleman, Scott Tinkoff, as one of our guests in the 7 o'clock hour. And he's part of the One Aim Chicago gun violence group. And we'll be talking a little bit about the unfortunate anniversary of the shooting in Highland Park as a survivor of that crazy incident and awful incident. And then author and professor and dude that's just got a few things to say about a few things, certainly when it comes to race and culture in America, and that's Dante King will be with us in the 7:30 hour. So brace yourselves, because I'm sure our conversation will be spicy. But that's where we are this morning, you guys, and looking forward to bringing you all we can, as we always do. But for right now, check this out, progressives.
Trump was elected because of an affordability crisis in this country. He was elected because of inflation. And the biggest part of inflation, the biggest part of anybody's budget, is housing. Trump could have been elected and said, my first order of business is going to be to make it easier to build houses in America. What does he do instead? He slaps a tariff on lumber from Canada and drywall material from Mexico. Guess what's really, really hard to build if you have no wood and you also have no drywall material? It turns out to be houses. So the first thing he does is make it harder to build the thing we need to solve the affordability crisis. Donald Trump does not understand how to fix the problems that ironically led to his election. That's where Democrats need to stand up and say, we're going to build an opposition movement that fixes people's problems by understanding people's problems.
That's such a great statement. And think about that for a second, guys. The conversation is, we need a different voice. We need a stronger voice. We need a voice that's going to, rattle the cage. We need it. We obviously need a voice and voices of all of our leaders who are going to push back, that are going to punch the bullies in their face. No question about that. But I like what the gentleman says about the message as it relates to fixing things. And when I hear the phrase, the Democrats need to go where people are, and Lieutenant Governor has said that. Governor Pritzker has said that here in Illinois. Other leaders have said it. David Jolly, the list goes on. That is so accurate and so on point. At the same time, what I think is critically important is, I just got a text saying Kamala Harris is going to give the first home buyers a $25,000 tax credit. That's absolutely correct. So when I hear people say that she didn't talk to the people, I call BS on that, because she did. She said that numbers of times. That's exactly what. But has Trump done that, Devin? Has he done anything to help people get into houses? I don't think so. And just to the gentleman in the clip, he's made it more expensive to build homes. You realize that by these dumb tariffs. But to that end, where I was going with regard to Dems going where the folks are, this is we have the opportunity to know the subjects, know what the issues are, and speak to them. I think it's if there's so many things, but this is one I can add to the list. That is our opportunity. It's for us to be better informed. It's for us to understand the issues. And it's for us as an opportunity, as a political force, to take that message to those around us. And so as much as, and Governor Pritzker said a version of this last week in his announcement, as much as we've got to make sure that our leaders are doing their part, we have to do our part too. And nobody take that the wrong way. whether we're talking about issues for the LGBTQ community, whether we're talking about issues that are around race, for me specifically, the African American community, more broadly, our other brothers and sisters of brown communities, women's issues, all of those things matter. And we have to, in my opinion, and certainly I can say it strongly, we have to be a little bit better stewards of the knowledge and the information. And that's why I say this at least every week, if not every few shows. We have to be willing to push back when the garbage comes our way. We have to be willing to do that. And I know that can be a tall order for a lot of folks that are saying, Richard, I'm doing everything I can. I get that. And that's why it's important to then have partners, have teammates, have alliances, have groups that you're a part of. Do you think that folks, I'm just going to use this as an example because it's one that's right in front of me. Do you think that Kurt Mullet from Hoosier Blue 63 or Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics podcast, they don't get tired? I know they do. And I'm using those because they're such regular contributors to our show. Or that Mike Nellis or Sarah Jones or any number of other people don't get tired. Michelle Peltier. All of us, we know that we all get tired, but one of the things that has helped Karen do such a great job, and has helped Kurt, and has helped Mike, and helped so many other people do a great job, is alliances with other folk. And that's why, like when I was talking to Lieutenant Governor on Sunday, and yes, I keep name dropping, but she talked about the importance of knowing what's really coming out of the mouths of everyday folk, and that. She said that includes everyday folk, knowing what's going on with everyday folk. But the alliances make us better. And that's why the Pride Parade was such a powerful event. Or that's certainly one of the reasons why. Okay. So before we go to this first break, I want to hit you guys with a couple of quick things that I was kind of putting together. Just a couple of things that you can be doing right now for pushing back on where we are with this bill. And I said some of this yesterday. First thing is call your senators. But I also said make sure you're calling the senators that are Republican senators. They have the numbers. Make sure that our senators stay in alignment with whatever Chuck Schumer has done to keep them in alignment right now. Make sure that that's happening. But call the Republican senators. Let them know. However you can get around whatever, blocks that they may have in calling, do it. Call your Republican senators and let them know the price that they're going to have to pay. When I say your Republican senators, meaning those that are if you're in a red state and you happen to have a Republican senator, then call them. If you're in a blue state, pick a red state and call a Republican senator. Let them know what's at risk for their political careers if they don't do what's right for the American people. And then call them again. The second thing, ask your friends and family. This is when I get back to why I wanted to give you this intro about understanding the issues and building alliances. Ask your friends and family that may be in Republican districts or states to call their senators as well. Okay? Make sure you're telling people. Don't be afraid to tell people about this bill. We're way past the days where we don't talk about politics and we don't do this, we don't do that. That's how Republicans have gained so much strength, is that they don't give a damn. They talk about it and they want to throw it in our faces. So talk to your friends. Tell people that you know about this bill. They may not know. They just hear this, chatter coming out of Washington, so they kind of, tune out to it. As I've said so many times, connect with local organizing groups and any activities that are protesting this bill and other things that are going to be still coming at us. Connect with those. Donate, if you can, to Democrats who are running against Republicans that have voted against this bill. Because if it does go through and if it does get signed, we have to bring sledgehammers to every fight going forward. We don't get to come with a ball peen hammer anymore. We have to come with a sledgehammer. We have to break some stuff. I shouldn't say I'm sorry to say it, but I'm sorry to say it. We have to be willing to break some stuff if this bill goes through. No sitting back and waiting to see what's going to happen. We got to break some stuff. And that, to me, is part of the beauty of organizing and with groups and donating to Democrats rather that are running against Republicans. And then, last but not least, before we hit this break, organize your own local protest. It might be something as, quote, small as the gentleman, I forget his name right now, that's one of Karen Burns' colleagues that's at the post office in Forest Park. Organize your own local protest. What's wrong with that? Nothing. There's everything right with it. So those are just some things that I was putting together and thought you guys might want to hear, just to kind of give you a little bit of a bump and a push this morning. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll hit you with some Choose Views news. And I want to give a shout out to a friend of mine for some work that she did. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
The far left's anti-ICE riots.
Republicans are so dumb. Because at WCPT, we go to Riot Fest to riot, baby! Riot Fest is back in Douglas Park, September 19th through the 21st. Come see all your favorite bands: Blink-182, Alkaline Trio, Weird Al Yankovic, Weezer, Green Day, and many more. Tickets are still on sale at riotfest.org, but lucky for you, if you join the WCPT 820 Club, WCPT will send you to Riot Fest! Riot Fest! September 19th through the 21st at Douglas Park in Chicago.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Good morning. You're waking up with Richard Chew.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
We're live and ready to hear from you. Text or call us now at 773-763-9278. Same number. Simple as that. Let's get the conversation going on WCPT 820. Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, Progressives, welcome back to the show. And one other little shout out. My man Kurt Herner may be giving us a holler this morning to talk about some of the things in the bill as it relates to Medicare. Medicare. He's kind of a subject matter expert on that based on the work that he does. All right, Devin, let's hit him with a couple of Choose Views news items this morning as we look at the numbers to watch this week. A slew of labor market data releases will take place this week, which will provide a crucial snapshot of the unemployment conditions at the time. And of course, the Federal Reserve is facing this intense pressure to cut interest rates. Economists are going to be breaking down the different numbers, and we're going to get a lot throughout the course of this week. The economy is projected to have jobs, 110,000 jobs in June, according to Reuters, which is down from the 139,000 from the prior estimation. Some upcoming releases today. The Institute of Supply Management will be releasing, its monthly Purchasing Managers Index, which tracks if manufacturing in the manufacturing sector is expanding or not. And the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics released the job openings and labor turnover that took place in May. Tomorrow, payrolls processor ADP will release its June employment report. And then on Thursday, July 3rd, the Bureau of Labor Statistics will release more reporting. The Institute of Supply Management will release its monthly Purchasing Managers Index, and we'll keep you guys posted as those numbers come through. All right, beef prices are spiking ahead of this July 4th weekend. And they're tariffing us to death, and they're gouging us. If you're planning to grill burgers on July 4th and this weekend, take note that beef prices are the highest that they've been in over a decade. 2 pounds of beef now costs about $13.33, according to American Farm Bureau Foundation. That's mainly because the American cattle supply is its lowest it's been in 75 years, following serious droughts in the heartland. But Republicans don't say that there's any issue there. They don't think there's a thing called drought and water table issues and all the rest. The surging beef price means a cookout for 10 will cost on average $71 this year, up 19% from 5 years ago. And the last but not least, guys, what's a comfortable salary? At a time of lingering inflation and economic uncertainty, how much do Americans say they need to earn to live comfortably? According to a new bank rate survey, 45% of respondents said they require a salary of at least $100,000 to feel financially secure. Meanwhile, 26% said they need to make $150,000 or more, and 16% called for over $200,000. Separately, 77% said they don't feel, quote, completely financially secure, which is up from 75% in 2024 and 72% in 2023. So that's just being comfortable. And that, I guess that's going to be defined differently per person and per household. But just wanted to bring you guys a couple of Choose Views news updates. Okay. So 2 weeks ago, we had my good friend and comedian Dana Goldberg on talking about a variety of things, as Jane is so well informed and equipped to do. But I just wanted to give her a shout out this morning, because during the month of June, every day in June, 30 days, she did a roughly 2-minute segment on someone in the LGBTQ community. And it was called Gay of the Day. Dana did some great work there. And it goes, if you didn't catch them, you didn't catch them, but I wanted to give her a shout out, because to put them together, to do the research, to talk about someone in the LGBTQ community and the impact that they had, and to do that for 30 days was quite an effort, and just really cool stuff that she was able to put out. And it was great to have her on the show 2 weeks ago to talk about that, as well as other work that she's doing, and certainly her observations about the craziness that's going on right now in our Crazy A community. So shout out to Dana, and shout out to our friend Karen Byrne. Walter Mitchell is the man's name I was trying to research in my cobwebs. And thanks to Karen for her getting involved and being a protester. Karen's is loud and just, rude with people. She doesn't take any stuff. She's like, hey, get over here and protest with us. But shout out to her, as well as to my man Kurt Muller, because it's hard. It's hard putting stuff together and keeping it going and getting people involved. But, give them some love. And many others all over the place that are getting out and leading protests. And that's why I said we have the opportunity to have impact on this Crazy A bill if we just make the calls. Bug the hell out of the Republican senators. Maybe call Schumer's office and say, Chuck, keep them in line. Keep them in line, and use some of your political capital, Chuck, to get those weakest 3, 4, 5 Republicans who are most vulnerable in terms of the voting districts, and get them to say, yeah, we're going to come with you guys. Maybe you got to do that, Chuck. Maybe you got to use some of that political capital. And this is the time to do it. Don't sit on it. Don't keep that powder dry. Use a little bit of that powder to let them know we're going to come after you if you don't come and vote with us to keep this bill from going forward. I mean, I don't know all the political machinations on the Senate and the House floor, but I do know that they've got to wield the power now. They don't need to sit back on it and let this thing go through when there's opportunities to squeeze some of these folks. I don't mean literally, but you guys know what I'm talking about. So our responsibility is to call the Republican senators. Call Chuck, say, Chuck, use that political capital, and then pick 2 or 3, 4 or 5 senators that you can call their offices. I mean, I know that's what I'm doing. And I got my list, and I'm making my calls, too, in the afternoon. So there you go. Let's grab a quick call before we go to break. Let's go to our man, Kurt Herner in Akron, Ohio. Hey, Kurt, good morning. What's happening?
Hey, good morning, Richard, and thank you for taking my call. It's been 100 years.
I understand you love this big, beautiful, sexy bill that they're putting on us.
Oh, well, I can't really say what I told your on-air screener, but, the FCC might get at me or get at you for that.
They get at us for not hitting the button fast enough. So, yeah, you had some comments you wanted to make about this as it relates to Medicare, Medicaid, and your observations as a practitioner.
Well, 23 and a half years I've been doing this. That's hard to think. In fact, I got it the day I graduated from college.
There you go.
There you go. So don't tell me that investing in your citizens through whatever doesn't work. But anyway, I just, it just bothers me. It really bothers me that I see people every day. Well, I guess what I should say is I am a 23-year veteran of Medicaid case management in the state of Ohio. I don't work for the state of Ohio. I actually work for a private company that is contracted with area hospitals throughout Northeast Ohio and into West Virginia. And what we do is we are contracted with area hospitals to speak with self-pay patients to see if they qualify for the Medicaid program or the hospital care assurance or the charity program, which people are familiar with who might not qualify for Medicaid. And I got to tell you, talking to these people in their sick bed, it's heartbreaking, and it's really eye-opening to see what is going on in people's lives. I mean, I've seen people that are complete losers that have been eligible for Medicaid. You know, well, I shouldn't say it that way. What I will say is there are people that I might not agree with their certain way of doing things or whatever, but it's not my position to judge someone because of that and deny them the treatment and the care that they need. Right. I go in there with an open mind saying, that's not my place to judge. My place is to try and get them what they need so they can get well again. Yeah. But, I mean, I've seen people who are, you know, well, for instance, I'll give you an example. One day I went to go see a patient, and I walked in and I explained, hi, Mr. Chu, my name is Kurt. I'm with this company, and I'm here because we're contracted with the hospital to see if you might be eligible for some free assistance. You know, that man started to cry saying, you know, I just prayed to God for some help, and you just walked right through the door.
Well,
and fortunately, he was eligible because this is a 50-year-old man who was in the process of going back to Kent State University to get a whole new life in a second act together, and then something unexpected happened. You know, as they say, life happened.
Right.
And fortunately, because he was taking care of his mother at home, his elderly mother at home, so he wasn't getting a so-called income, he was eligible for the Medicaid expansion.
Well, here's the thing, and this is why your experience is so important. And I think there's so many others out there like you that do the work that you do. Is that this is all going to get interrupted and interrupted in a couple of ways. One, the funding that's going to be constrained, restrained, pulled back, however we want to phrase it, that's going to happen. And the second thing that's going to take place, and this is where I think a lot of people have just lost the understanding, is that there are going to be people who, because of the benefits being available, now not only it's a double-edged sword. Not only are they going to probably have to pay out of pocket or come out of pocket in some way, and that's going to put stress on their budget. But the other part, and is the people who then have to do that money that would have been circulating through the economy that they now have to spend to fill the void is no longer going to be circulating through the economy. And so this is one of the things that we've given. And I say we, meaning all of us that are progressive liberal Democrats, have given too much doggone credit to Republicans to knowing how to run businesses, knowing how to run this and run that. Because to me, that's just a basic, why would you take away and then create a problem for people and then have a double-edged sword where now the monies that they've got to spend aren't in the economy any longer? It's insane.
Well, let's take it a step further. You know, you don't have the care. Where do you go? You go to Dr. ERMD, and that's expensive. You can't pay for it. So what happens? And, you qualify under certain guidelines based on family size, based on gross income up to 3 months before coming to the hospital to qualify for charity care. Who takes on that whole responsibility? The hospital. They're not going to absorb that. So what do? They take people like you and me who have health insurance, and they raise our rates in order to pay for that. So, I mean, hospitals ain't giving it away for free. It may look like it, but they ain't giving it away for free.
That's right.
And then here's the other thing. And I think President Kennedy, back in 1962, when he was starting to bring about the idea of Medicare, he painted a good scenario where you have an elderly couple who may have, $2,500, $3,000 in the bank. Their home is paid for. They may have their Social Security. Back then, it was probably $100 a month, which was a lot of money in 1962. Mm-hmm. And maybe the husband has a pension from his previous job, and then the wife gets sick. So what happens? First, the bank account gets dried up. Then they try to make payments by remortgaging their house, and they try to do it on their Social Security and their pension.
Yep.
And they can't do it. So then they have to go to their children who have families of their own that they're trying to put through school or do whatever. And then when that doesn't work, then they have to go and sign a petition saying that they're destitute. Yeah. And that's exactly how it was back before the Social Security Act in 1935.
And where we are today is that, again, this is why people have to pay attention to what's behind the curtain as well as what's in front, because these are the things that we are at a tipping point that could happen again with the craziness of this bill. Kurt, thanks for the call this morning. I got to hit this quick break, but thank you for giving us a quick shout out and a quick Cliff Notes version of what's happening in that space. We will talk to you soon, my man. Thanks so much, and have a good Fourth if we don't talk to you before then, okay?
Thank you, Richard, and you too.
All right, man. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Let's go to a quick break, guys. 773-763-9278. Thanks to Kurt for giving us a quick call and a quick Cliff Notes version of some things that are happening on the field, on the ground. We'll take a break and we'll be right back.
Hey, get in. What? Who are you? I'm future you. Constipation with belly pain still coming back? Yeah. Mia, our doctor figured it out. She said it's irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C, and Linzess could help you get ahead of it.
Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the upper 80s. Winds out of the northwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Then for tonight, mostly clear with a low near 69. By Wednesday, a slight chance for showers and thunderstorms here late. Blend of clouds and sunshine develops high around 90. And Thursday, slight chance for rain and storms late with a high around 93. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 73.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. 773-763-9278. Again, shout out to my man Kurt Herner in Ohio for bringing us the news of the day in that Medicare, Medicaid conversation, of which he is got deep roots and understanding. Today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joan Esposito will be talking to Nina Burleigh, journalist, best-selling author, documentary producer, publisher of the American Freak Show Substack newsletter, retired Army Major General Randy Manner, former acting vice chair of the National Guard Bureau and member of the National Security Leaders of America, and Mark Jacob and Jennifer Schulze with our regular media segment, Live, Local, and Progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 here on WCPT. That would be, yes, Joan Esposito, Chicago's Progressive Talk for 20 years. And then tonight on Driving It Home, Patty Vasquez will be joined by DuPage Forest Preserve District Commissioner Rick Gieser, who will share his discovery that Martin Luther King Jr. visited the Blackwell Forest Preserve on June 23rd, 1967. How about that? And Travis Kennedy, author of the just-published satirical novel, The White Python World Tour, which follows Rick Thunder, a 22-year-old drummer in his 80s metal band, who accidentally becomes an international spy. It's a hilarious, high-suspense, head-banging journey steeped in 80s nostalgia. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. here on WCPT, AM 820, the Heartland Signal website, tune in, YouTube, and Facebook. Tomorrow's show, of course, it's Wednesday, so our good friend Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63 will be with us, and we will be having a conversation with Illinois U.S. Representative Robin Kelly, who is a candidate for the open Senate seat that's going to be vacated by Senator Dick Durbin. And then on Thursday, Karen Byrne will be with us from True Blue Politics podcast, and Illinois Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy will be with us, who's also running for Senate. So it'll be a busy couple of days with a couple of our local folks that are congressional leaders here in the state of Illinois. So stay tuned. And as always, we are sponsored by the Credo Mobile phone and text line, 773-763-9278. Credo Mobile is a phone company that is progressive, that has and understands that it's better for all people and for the planet. So visit credomobile.com. All right. We got more other great stuff to talk about. I'm going to get some Hal Sparks event that we're going to be talking about, and keep you guys posted on that. We'll get that to you in a little bit. Okay. Let me highlight that. Make sure we don't miss it. There we go. So, some current events, some things that you guys should be aware of if you're not already. Just in terms of overall conversation, democracy is taking a stand, in not just here in the United States, but in other parts of the world. And you guys may have seen this in terms of the way that people are fighting back in other places against authoritarian governments and authoritarian leaders. This took place, obviously, the No Kings rallies that took place all over the United States 2 weekends ago. And then there were huge crowds that gathered in Budapest to protest against their leader, Viktor Orban, and his attacks on the LGBTQ community. It was there was the country's 30th, or the capital, meaning the Hungarian capital, Budapest. It was their 30th annual Pride March in defiance of Viktor Orban. And that was great to see. Much more coming out regarding that. And then Serbia also continued to protest against their slide into authoritarianism. Massive anti-government protest that took place. They announced there were more arrests that took place, but that's because people were out protesting. So it's good to see that it's not just the United States. But what I will say is that a number of countries where protests are taking place, a lot of that's driven off of what people are seeing in the United States. And that's where and why I talk about leading. We as individuals, regular everyday folks, can lead in this conversation if we choose to. And I think other countries are taking a little bit of sort of a little bit of their lead from us, which is why we have to continue in that space, why we have to continue to protest, why we have to continue to talk about these things daily. I know it can be tiring. And here we go, Richard goes again, talking about all this fighting we got to do, all this pushing back that we have to do. But I've refused to just kind of roll over. It's not going to happen for me. And I want to be able to bring as many of you as I can. I want to roll you up in the carpet of fight, and that's one of the reasons why I keep pushing in this space and making sure that we keep pushing. A couple of shout outs from those of you who sent text this morning. Cassandra and Oak Park, thank you so much. And thank you for from 847. And then I was just reminded that it's Canada Day also today. I didn't know that. Yes, thanks 386 from all the way down in Florida reaching out to us this morning. We love our Canadian families and friends. Yes, we do. And if you're in Florida, you probably have a lot of Canadians that make their way down and spend some time in Florida. So shout out to you for your message this morning. I appreciate you. So yeah, guys, the fight is on, and other countries are caught up in it as well. And I think if you can draw energy from your local folks that you're working with, that's great. But look around and see what other folks are doing in other countries. They're pushing back against authoritarianism. They're pushing back against these dictators and these folks that just here's how I look at it. I've said this before, versions of it before. And if you guys can't say this out loud, I'll say it for you and maybe empower you to say it. They're feckless. They just are. They're not that powerful. If they were really powerful, they would galvanize the country that they live in, that they rule in, and that they're elected in, whether it be Orban, whether it be someone else in a different part of the world. They're not strong people. You know, here's always my test to see if a person is really, truly strong, is one-on-one, not one with 10 people behind them. That's always been, can a person step to the mic? Can they step to the moment by themselves without all the pomp and circumstance behind them? Take all that away. And is that person still going to be willing to stand up and stand with you and stand up for you? That, to me, is the measure of a man or a woman, irrespective of community. If that person can, on their own, his or her own, without all the guards and the security guys and all the other stuff around him or her, if they can still take the mic, literally and figuratively, that's a person, to me, that's a strong person in this space. So a lot of these guys, frankly, a lot of these folks, generically, you take away all that window dressing and they literally are naked. You know, what is the phrase that the emperor has no clothes? They literally have no clothes. They literally have nothing to stand on. And I think that's why, now, conversely, we have to individually step forward and step up, but we don't have to do it alone. Because if you think about that same sort of dynamic, the reason that these people can, you know, wield the quote unquote power that they have, it's not because they are powerful. It's because the system has provided them with power. Just think about that. Let that marinate for a second. The system has provided them with power. They themselves are not. But what you want to be able to do is use the same sort of energy and organizational thinking to create your own power base so that you don't have to do this on your own. That's why I keep going back to my notes from earlier. Create your own protest group. Create your own rally. Organize your own local protest. That gives you power. I'll give you an example. Jamal Cole, individual, saw some things that he didn't like and decided he was going to start a movement. And look what's happened. That's a dude that can stand on his own. But he decided to organize and bring people with him, and look how much stronger his organization has become. And there's so many people that I see them as that type of a strong person because they were able to create something. He imagined a better situation, not to hurt anybody, but to strengthen people. By contrast, the Orbans of the world and the Putins of the world and the Netanyahus of the world and the Trumps of the world, they themselves individually, I wonder how rugged and strong they are. And Michelle Duster talked about this yesterday in terms of this, you know, rugged individualism. I think that Joan even captured it a bit as well. This sort of rugged individualism of American men or American folk is really, there's only a few people that you could name that set out and as a rugged individualist. I mean, can you name 10? Maybe you could. I shouldn't say that so matter-of-factly. But I want you guys to really understand why I think it's important to talk about this every step of the way, of staying organized, staying in the fight, and recognizing that the people that are in power did not create that power on their own. Much of it was given to them by people who decided to just hand over their power. I mean, look at and this is how you can kind of litmus test this. Think about this. How many Republicans who've been elected to their respective offices on a federal level in the House and the Senate have just genuflected, to make up a word, have just decided to take a knee, to bend the knee to Donald Trump? They keep giving him more power by not standing in their space and standing in their truth. Just think about that. Lindsey Graham is now so gone. At one point, He was talking about Joe Biden being one of the best human beings you could ever meet. I'm paraphrasing. But he chose to vote for a dude that's one of the worst human beings you could ever, meet. Think about that. And the list goes on. I mean, Lisa Murkowski, these are names that are just coming right to the tip of my tongue. I just drew a blank on this. Susan Collins. Then the list goes on. They've given power to him because they're too afraid to stand up for the people that elected them. How crazy is that? So we have to reset that clock. And we take back power by organizing, by doing what the folks in Serbia and the folks in Hungary have done. And that's continue to protest in the face of all of these crazy times that we're in. Let's take a quick break, Deb. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. In 1939, when Europe was on the brink of war, a single mother was bringing Jewish refugees into her home, teaching her two daughters to help others when you can and fight injustice. Freddie and Charles Offerstegen took their mother's advice to heart, joining their mother in distributing anti-Nazi newspapers and pamphlets for the resistance, a dangerous act when the Nazis invaded the Netherlands. But with the girls being young, Freddie being only 14 and Charles being only 16, Nazis were less likely to suspect them to be working for the resistance. This is most likely why in 1941, a commander of the Haarlem resistance group to ask their mother if he could recruit Freddie and Truss. Their mother and the girls agreed and were given basic training, and within 2 years, the girls were bringing Jewish refugees into hiding, working in emergency hospitals, sabotaging bridges and railway lines, and killing Nazis, sometimes ambushing them from their bicycles. Despite the Netherlands not wanting to acknowledge the girls' achievements, their contributions to helping the Allied powers will never be unnoticed.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. 773-763-9278. WCPT is excited to announce that Hal Sparks is coming back to Chicago for another live broadcast at where? Max and Benny's Restaurant, Deli and Bakery in Northbrook. Join Hal and Johnny Million for a special live broadcast of the Hal Sparks radio program Saturday, July 12th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. If you can make it there, tickets are now on sale for the low cost of $20. To get your tickets, visit heartlandsignal.com and click on the Hal Sparks live event banner at the top of the page. Hurry, they'll go fast. If you won't be able to make it out to Max and Benny's, be sure to tune in live Saturday, July 12th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And I will probably be there as a guest with Hal. So we'll just, let you guys know, give you a high five. Maybe a hug. No, who knows? A protester stormed the Senate and told the Republicans, "You people are awful." Now, not everybody is going to storm the Senate floor. So when I talk about protesting, when I talk about fighting, you got to measure what your depth of the water is that you can go in. But this person did show up and say, "You people are awful," and three times. Got removed, unfortunately, but they interrupted this process. And so you may not be someone that's going to run up and do that, but you can do it in your own way. Because Americans hate this bill. I mean, this is the part where the mainstream media, I won't say that they're dropping the ball. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Why am I going to tiptoe around it? Here's some of the polling that you guys should be aware of when you think that, oh my God, this is people are loving this. This is some of the polling. The bill has a net favorable rating ranging from -19 to negative 29 points. So widespread disapproval. This is coming from a variety of different polls, and I'll give them to you real quickly as I can. Washington Post, -19. Pew is -20. Fox, -21. Quinnipiac is -26. Those are some pretty strong numbers. And I think that the reason that that's important to talk about and to be mindful of is when I said earlier that, hey guys, when you come across someone, your family, your colleagues, your friends, and I talked about connecting or tell people what you know about this bill. People that you know, tell them about this bill. This is what I mean. It's important to say to people that you know, this bill is not popular. This bill has got negative, favorable ratings across the board from, frankly, I'll say certainly some of the more popular and referred to polling groups. Well, I don't want to give them a ranking of the best or the worst, but certainly you don't have to be a mathematical genius to recognize that this thing stinks to high heaven. So make the calls. Let folks know. Don't sit on your hands and say, well, I can't do anything. Yes, you can. All right, let's grab a quick call before we hit the top of the hour. Let's go to Steve in Des Plaines. Good morning, Steve, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Richard. How are you doing?
I'm well.
I wanted to chime in on this idea of self-made men, and John was talking about yesterday. It's very rare. It's very rare through history, and I'm a history major. All these so-called self-made men had to lift up somewhere. Somewhere along, someone gave them some money, or a parent gave them a little inheritance for seed money, and someone got a leg up. And we have to remember that these billionaires have drawn their money from the commons. They suck the money out of the commons that we all pay for.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Bezos, now give Jeff Bezos credit. I mean, he came up with an idea, worked hard. Grant, he deserves his kudos and his money to a point. But he also had lots of breaks, lots of
how about the $300,000 that his mother provided for him in terms of the rugged individualism, pull yourself up by your $300,000 bootstraps?
That's right. That's exactly right.
A lot of people don't know about that.
Bill Gates is the same way. Bill Gates, I believe, had some seed money. Of course, Mr. Musk had lots of seed money, lots of white apartheid seed money.
Bingo.
End of story. Let's tell it the way it is.
And there's nothing. Here's the thing, Steve. Let's be honest. And you said it yourself, so I want to ride along with you on this. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong. If your family has the money to help you get something started, then more power to all of us. But don't run around and pretend like you never had any help and that you totally on your own with no support had any help to make this great thing that you created. And stop telling the lie. And then the worst part of it all, if you're going to tell that lie, is to then yank up the ladder when other people who are ascending are trying to ascend because you want to make it sound like I did this all by myself. No, that's a damn lie. You did not.
No, you did not, because here's the thing, too. When they get into that psychology, they think they're masters of the universe. They get to do what they want, take what they want, say what they want. There's no they get into they live this facade. Now, you go into history, Andrew Carnegie, the great steel magnate, he may be one of the few really self-made men. He was a Scottish immigrant. Right. But he had people had a hand up. Henry Ford, brilliant guy, a bit of a jerk in some ways, but he was a brilliant guy. And he had people there, businessmen would get behind him and say, okay, well, we'll back you up on this and stuff. So, and he's white, of course, that comes into it. He had seed money. So we need to take control of the narrative here and put these billionaires and millionaires. We got to get our government back. Got to take it out of the hand. It's simple as that. No
That's
doubt
true,
about
Steve.
it.
I will ask you this question: how's school going?
School is great. You've invited me to crow a little bit. I've got an A and a B in 2 classes, and I took a pass grade, fail in the other, and I got a pass. So we're rocking, baby.
That's what I'm talking about, man. Way to go, Steve. We always appreciate your call, and I'm glad you're doing well and stay in the fight, my man. We really appreciate it.
All right. Have a good day, sir.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Be well. Bye-bye. That's my man, Steve, letting us know. Yeah, I mean, I'm never going to say and never have said that a person's success in largesse is not earned and not hard fought. But don't tell the lie that you did this all on your own and that it came from. We've got so many people that we could just lay out the story where they were assisted by someone, if for nothing other than if it weren't monetary assistance, it was mental counsel. It was someone was there on their darkest of days and they were ready to, call it a day, but that person was able to see over the horizon. One of my favorite scenes about fortitude and keeping going is in the movie The African Queen, and Humphrey Bogart and I'm just drawing a blank. Bacall were about to shut it down, and as the scene fades to black at the end of the night when they're working their way down the river, in the distance is the horizon, and in that horizon is that optimism about going forward. And that's one of the things that I've used in my life to keep me going forward. But there's no way in heck I would be able to do what I'm doing now and what I've been able to accomplish in my life without the people that have been around me. There's no way. I know I worked my behind off, but there's still no way I would have been able to do the things that I've been able to do and travel and be and all those other things without the folks that have been around me. Those that I've known, just the list goes on. So that's why when I hear this, they built it themselves and that they are now telling everybody that it's because of their greatness. No, it's because of the collective greatness of people. So tie that back to yourselves, tie that back to working with folks, tie that back to how I can build and be strong with the partnerships of people that I know, tie that back to community, tie that back to the maybe an individual idea, but an idea that grew because of partnering with people around you, and let that be kind of your North Star as we fight through this craziness. And thanks for the correction I just received. It was Katharine Hepburn. It wasn't what's her name? But yes, great movie, great scene, and it's all about that horizon. So, all right, guys, I just want us to stay connected. I know that we are. I just want us to stay that way. And I want you to reach out to people around you. I want you to create your own protest. I want you to find the people that are in your network of friends, family, colleagues, and the rest, where you can say, we're going to partner together and make sure that we fight this thing together. I know it's tiring. Believe me, I do. And some folks that are chronologically at a point where they're like, damn, Chew, I was ready to slow down, man. I didn't think I was about to get back in the ring again. So don't just do it for the grandchildren and all that. Do it for yourself, to have it be a part of your legacy. Just my observation. Don't get upset with me for saying it that way. That being said, guys, let's take a quick break. The number, of course, is 773-763-9278. When we come back, we're going to talk about and take on the tough topic that we all need to be more aware of. 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-555-1509. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-555-1509. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-555-1509. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-555-1509 or biglou.com.
Give your liver the support it needs with Active Liver. Go to newnordicusa.com, Amazon, or ask for Active Liver at your local CVS. New you, new Nordic.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. Vice President J.D. Vance has arrived at the Capitol as senators worked through the night on President Trump's big bill of tax breaks and spending cuts. But an endgame appears to be taking shape today. Vance is on hand if needed to break a tie vote as Democrats try to defeat the package. A corrections officer was shot to death in North Carolina by an inmate trying to escape. The The AP's Jennifer King has more.
Authorities in Murphy, North Carolina say a detention officer who was escorting a federal inmate to an orthopedic clinic is dead, shot with his own gun after a scuffle. Another officer was injured in the Monday incident.
The detention officer is Francisco Flates.
Cherokee County Sheriff Dustin Smith.
There was an inmate that was transported to Murphy Medical Center for treatment. While there was a scuffle. And during that scuffle, the inmate took the detention officer's weapon and shot the detention officer.
Smith says 48-year-old Kelvin Simmons ran into the parking lot after the shooting, jumped into a vehicle and took off. He was apprehended about an hour away. Simmons was being held on bank robbery charges and had tried to escape back in October. Now the sheriff says he'll be charged with first-degree murder.
This is a horrible day for us as a county. This is a horrible day for law enforcement.
Audio courtesy WLOS. I'm Jennifer King.
And Brian Koberger has agreed to plead guilty to murdering 4 University of Idaho students as part of a deal to avoid the death penalty. Hurricane Flossie continues to strengthen off Mexico's southwestern Pacific coast. The U.S. National Hurricane Center reports maximum sustained winds of 85 miles per hour. International charities are urging the Israeli and U.S.-backed aid mechanism in Gaza to disband. They cite repeated chaos and deadly violence at aid distribution sites. Between late Monday and early Tuesday, at least 7 Palestinians were killed while seeking aid in southern and central Gaza. This is AP News. AP correspondent Julie Walker reports it's day 2 of jury deliberations in the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking trial.
The jury of 4 women and 8 men deciding the fate of Sean Diddy Combs are supposed to get back to work this morning when court convenes. The jury began deliberating late yesterday morning on charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, and the Mann Act, which is transporting people for prostitution. Also yesterday, the 4-person told the judge there was an issue with a juror not following instructions, and the judge had to remind the jury of the 62-page charging document he read to them before deliberations began. Jurors are going through 7 weeks of testimony, including acts of violence and sexual encounters. Combs denies the charges. If convicted, there's a possibility he could go to prison for life. Julie Walker, New York.
More information at apnews.com. I'm Marcela Sanchez.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the upper 80s. Winds out of the northwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Then for tonight, mostly clear with a low near 69. By Wednesday, a slight chance for showers and thunderstorms here late. Blend of clouds and sunshine develops high around 90. And Thursday, slight chance for rain and storms late with a high around 93. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 73. While retinitis pigmentosa takes Mark's vision, his family gives him hope, whether at the family business or at home with his wife and sons. He knows he's not fighting alone. For 50 years, the Foundation Fighting Blindness has funded research into treatments and cures for blinding retinal diseases, providing hope to people with vision loss. And for Mark, winning the fight means being there for his family. The Foundation Fighting Blindness. Together, we're winning. Help us end blinding diseases at fightingblindness.org.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the show. Thanks to everybody who corrected me that it was Katharine Hepburn, not Lauren Bacall. And so, yes, I thought I know my movies a little bit, but I know the scene. And those of you who sent me the text, thank you so much for keeping me online. Thanks, Lois. Thanks, 630-847, all of you guys for that. Okay. I think I've been through a few things in my life. Nothing as tragic as many others have had to endure, but I've seen some crazy A stuff. And I've always been thankful that I've been able to ask myself, what have I learned? Right now with this bill, right now with this current administration, there's certainly something that's not partisan, and that's safety in our communities. And we've been fighting gun safety. We've been fighting violence from guns for a long, way longer than we should have. We should have put this one to rest, or at least a conversation moving in the right direction on it. And when we had the assault weapons ban, we saw the numbers, measurable data, not just opinions and anecdotal thoughts about gun violence go down, and mass shootings in particular. With us this morning is someone that has a firsthand knowledge of not only working on the side of fixing the problem, but also someone that had to witness an unbelievable amount of harm and carnage and death. And that would be Highland Park resident Scott Tinkoff. Good morning, Scott, and welcome to Choose Views.
Hey, good morning, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. How you rolling this morning? You doing okay?
Doing well. I appreciate it.
1st of July, we made it here, and thank goodness we made it to another July 1st, or as we then start to celebrate that second summer season holiday. We check off Memorial Day, and then we click the switch, and it gets hot as you know what, and then we get to July, and now we got the 4th right around the corner. So thank you for being with us, man. When I was looking at my notes and thinking about this conversation, I wanted to look at it more from take a moment, tell us who you are, and then let's talk about what you've been doing since this horrible shooting, and how you've been able to persevere, and then as your association with One Aim Illinois, how you've been able to try to work toward fixing some of the problems that we have in this space. So take it away, Scott.
Sounds great, and thanks. You talk about the calendar flipping to July. It used to be a really exciting time in my household. You're thinking fireworks and picnics, and that changed a few years ago. I have 2 young boys, and a few years ago they were 2 and 5. They're now 5 and 8. But we were attending the Highland Park parade with so many of our neighbors, colleagues, and friends. We were actually accidental attendees that day. As it turned out, we were just riding our bikes down the bike path, and a neighbor saw my boys all decked out in red, white, and blue and said, hey, enjoy the parade. And my 5-year-old turned to me and said, Dad, there's a parade? We're going to the parade? We weren't, but we wound up going to the parade, and wound up parking our bike initially right where the shooting took place, going in and eating breakfast at the restaurant that was shot up, and so many of our neighbors were lost and harmed right there. And we walked out just moments before the shooting began, and I looked at my wife and said, hey, do you want to just sit here? And she said, oh, let's go move a little bit further down the street. And so fortunately for us, we did. But we think about and talk about, that lucky coincidence and kind of that serendipity all the time. Could have been very different, but as it was, still certainly a horrific morning, and one that has impacted our community, certainly my wife and I, and maybe most importantly, my kids to this day.
Well, Scott, listen, man, I like I said at the beginning, I've been through some stuff. I've seen some horrible stuff in my life, and I never want to make it a comparison of, who's seen the worst thing in their lives. But I appreciate you speaking to that, and you use a great word of serendipity as it relates to that moment when you guys made a decision to locate yourself someplace else. You had no idea, but the strength that you have right now, and making sure that the people in the community are moving to a little bit better sense of wholeness is to be admired. How do your boys navigate through knowing what happened and being there that day, and just processing this as they get chronologically older?
Yeah, it's a lot to kind of unpack. I have my two boys, both have been diagnosed with generalized anxiety. So there are also a lot of big feelings in my household in general. And so this doesn't necessarily make that any easier. And we see it not even necessarily being processed directly, but this time of year for them, especially the elder of the two, is really hard. And we've even just noticed his behavior the last couple of weeks has changed. He's been more on edge. He's been a little bit more scattered and fighting back some feelings and some challenges in that way. He and I, as soon as we heard the shots, I handed my wife our then 2-year-old, and she ran one direction, and my 5-year-old and I ran right behind her. He lost a flip-flop. And he slowed down. I said, forget the flip-flop, and I grabbed him, and we wound up jumping over a wall. And to this day, he doesn't wear flip-flops. He's off of
Why did I know you were going to
flip-flops.
say that?
Yeah. And so you just see those little things, and you know it will stick with him in his life. And it's one of the things that inspired my wife, myself, and so many in our community, I think, to try to fight back and find ways to make an impact and use that day to start to build towards something better, not only for our community, but hopefully for all of the country.
Well, and you have, and I know that the fact that you were able to be involved with One Aim Illinois and that the importance of that organization. Talk a little bit about that and why you've been involved and what it's meant to you and what it's going to mean for the future on this conversation.
I heard you just a few moments ago talking about protesting and finding a way to fight back, and that everybody can do it in their own way. And sometimes it takes an incredibly traumatic event. Sometimes it takes just flipping on the news, and I feel like that's more and more the case right now. But this was one of those moments that's kind of seared into our memory, and immediately for us felt like an opportunity to turn something really negative and really horrific into hopefully something a bit more positive. And finding One Aim through my network of friends and colleagues, and being able to get involved, stay involved, and help impact legislation here in the state of Illinois, and hopefully in doing so impacting the thought process and hopefully legislation nationwide has been so important. And there are so many organizations that were out there, and we were flooded with information after the shooting. Obviously, you're processing a lot of feelings, and you're also trying to think about how you can make an impact, get your voice out there, fight back a little bit. And One Aim really offered an opportunity because of what they are to make a real impact, because so many organizations, you're just a cog in a much larger wheel. One Aim really impacts policy from a grassroots standpoint. They've built a coalition of 250 community members and organizations here in the state. And that's really the part that, to me, was the most powerful and impactful, is that it was much bigger than the Highland Park shooting, as much as it impacted our lives. Gun violence is a part of people's lives every single day, and oftentimes these flashbulb events get a lot of the publicity when the folks who are dealing with violence every day, the folks who are at risk every day, our friends in Black and brown communities have a much higher rate of gun violence than we may see in Highland Park on a day-to-day basis. Coming together as a much larger community and fighting alongside people like Delphine Cherry, who has lost 2 kids to gun violence and lost them more than 10 years apart. Being with people like that, seeing their pain, their strength, and how they turn it into things. It's inspiring to me and hopefully to the community and legislators as well.
Well, and I appreciate you saying what you said. And we're talking with Scott Tinkoff, who is a resident of Highland Park and a survivor, if you can call it that, of the tragedy of the Highland Park shooting a few years back. Scott, that it's noted, and it's incredibly important that you bring to the table the point that violence in people's lives every day that's at the tip of a gun is oftentimes not talked about. The flashpoints get all of it should get publicity. Let's put it this way. I don't want to rank them. That's not fair to anybody. But all of it should get publicity. All of it should get the necessary energy behind it to talk about it. So, but I appreciate you making note of the fact that, there are people who are in different communities, particularly, unfortunately, income-driven and Black and brown communities that are dealing with this in a hyper and higher rate than a big, unfortunate shooting like you experience. It's all important. It all matters. And One AIM is known for its involvement in making sure that we keep the topic in front of everybody. How are you, or let me ask a question this way. What are your feelings about how state leaders are responding or have responded to gun violence at large in the state of Illinois? Not neighborhoods necessarily or communities, but just in general, what are you seeing and what are your thoughts there?
One of the big challenges immediately when you start diving into this issue, and I feel a little disappointed in myself, I think, in some ways, for not having gotten involved sooner, for taking this incident to really push it and drive it home in me. But as soon as I started digging in, and I was on Capitol Hill a couple of times shortly after the shooting, and you see how difficult any change is going to be. And you hear from legislators who almost laugh in the face of that violence and don't take it seriously. And it's disheartening. And there's some of that still here in the state of Illinois, but I'm incredibly proud of the work that One AIM has done, of the support that we have gotten from state legislators, from the fact that we've gotten so much legislation passed just in the last few years, the fact that assault weapons not only are banned, but that has continued to hold up in the face of any number of legal challenges. And just in this last cycle, getting the homicide data transparency bill passed, getting the Safe at Home bill passed, making really useful, meaningful bits of legislation, pushing those through and making it safer for our families, our kids, and hopefully generations to come.
Well, and I'm proud. I mean, I'm unapologetically proud of the leaders in our state, and I mean the ones that are elected and then the ones that are part of organizations like you are with regard to One AIM, because it does, the language "it takes a village" can't be overused at any given time, but particularly when moments like this take place, whether it's a shooting in Inglewood or a shooting downtown, whether it's a shooting in Highland Park or wherever, that's where the community has to come together. And maybe I'm biased in this space. I think that we in Illinois are doing a pretty good job of finding our way through to come together and work hard to get these things resolved, both as legislative measures as well as individuals and groups like One AIM. And I just want to say this to you, Scott. You don't need to beat yourself up about what you didn't do beforehand. A lot of folks didn't, I get that. But the thing that you should compliment yourself on, and I will say this to you, is that you didn't wither when you saw that this was real and it came to literally your neighborhood. You weren't someone that recoiled and said, I'm going to, not do anything. You got involved. And that to me is the other side of when I talk about folks getting involved, whether there's been a tragedy or an incident or experiential thing taking place, you didn't wither. And, one of the toughest things that you probably have to navigate, as you said, is just keeping your boys in alignment and being a leader for them. And by you getting involved in One AIM, that shows them that there's a way forward and a way through. So don't beat yourself up too much, my man. I got to tell you that. So, you stayed in the fight, and that is what leaders do, and you've been a leader locally. So kudos to you in that space, and again for being with us. Talk about this fundraiser, man, that's coming up in the latter part of this year. I think it's in November. Is that right?
Yep. So, we are really trying to expand our reach, our impact in the community. And a big part of that is bringing people together from all parts of the state, bringing together some impactful legislators and that. And hopefully folks like yourself, because really what you're doing by shedding light on this topic, by bringing, giving us a platform, and folks, whether it's gun prevention or on so many issues, that doesn't get enough appreciation sometimes as well. So thank you for what you do.
Absolutely.
The event in November is hopefully there'll be details out on our website, oneaimil.org. We'll be putting more and more up there as far as speakers, as far as some of the folks who will be joining us. But really fun night with a lot of people.
I'd be more than happy to be one of your folks. Sorry about that. I'd be more than happy to be a participant in whatever way I can and lend my voice. It's supposed to be November 13th. Is that what you guys are looking at?
That sounds right.
That should be good. I mean, the information and the collective energy of folks coming out will be great, and it'll be a good fundraiser. And for, the goal of fighting the fight to end gun violence, no matter where it is and no matter where it takes place, is incredibly important. And folks like you who are leading in that space. So I'll ask this question as gently as I can, based on what you said at the beginning. Do you guys have plans to be out and about with this holiday weekend coming forward, or how do you navigate that, or navigated that the last couple of years?
It's kind of a hot topic, and has been, for the last few years. We've chosen, at least the last 2 years, to be fairly low key. The community brought back the parade, and I think that was a wonderful sign and show of strength. But for our family, just hasn't felt like the right thing.
Yeah.
This year, the younger of my two boys, who's now pushing 6, is really interested in 4th of July fireworks. And my 8-year-old, almost 9-year-old, is pretty leery. And so we're trying to make a decision that appeases both of them and finds the right balance. And so it's just an interesting time for us to try and navigate as parents, as a family. But I think my boys have certainly handled it very well, and we'll still stay low key, but I think we're finding kind of the right balance.
Well, I will again applaud you for being a good dad, being a good, human being, and certainly embracing the situation and providing the leadership that your family needs. And I know that you and your wife have done it as a team to make sure that your boys can see their way through this and help keeping them focused and feeling good. We'll send out the good vibe to both of the guys, and particularly your oldest one, who might be dealing with it a little bit differently. But I know that you and your wife will be able to be there to give them the love and the leadership that they need to navigate through this. Scott, how can folks find you through One Aim?
Yep. So you can find us on most social media, but the easiest way to get involved, get in touch, is to visit our website at OneAim, ONEAIMIL, OneAimIllinois.org, O-R-G. And come check us out. Love to have you at an upcoming event. We put on any number of learning opportunities, bring folks from the community to share their stories, to provide some of that data-driven insights that you were talking about at the top. A lot of what we do is try to put the facts out there, put the data in front of people, because it makes a very, very compelling case. And we'd love to have everybody involved and all the more folks both at our fundraiser, but certainly involved in the community.
Well, I'm there for you. You got me. Check my box to keep me involved. I appreciate it and appreciate what you're doing. And kudos to you and your family and in the greater community for standing up strong. Thanks for being with us, Scott. Have a great weekend and a great time with your boys and your wife. Okay.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Richard. You as well.
All right. Take care. Bye now. There you go, guys. I mean, what can you say? I mean, this is a gentleman who had to navigate through something that most of us would never experience. And he talked about families who are dealing with it that are not part of a quote unquote mass shooting, but everyday shootings. And this is where legislation is incredibly important. And I think here in Illinois, we're doing a good job. As he said, we can always do better. And thank goodness for J.B. Pritzker, Lieutenant Governor Stratton, A.G. Raul, Comptroller Mendoza, and all the rest of the folks that are doing their best to damp this down. So let's take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to probably play a clip as we lead into our next guest. But let's take a quick break, guys. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Check Up on Health with Chris Whitting.
A study from the University of Maryland probed whether people with heart disease have a reduced sense of humor. Dr. Michael Miller.
We asked them to respond. For example, one of the questions would be if you were to solve a puzzle very quickly in front of your friend to the point that your friend was very surprised, how might you react to that? And the answers would vary from not thinking it was anything to write home about all the way to laughing heartily. Individuals that have heart disease were less likely to respond laughing heartily. They were more likely to respond that they were irritated at the particular situation or did not find it amusing.
While it's considered natural for those fighting heart disease to be more down in the dumps than healthy people, the study prompts physicians to be very aware of the emotional health of their heart patients. With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. During the Civil War, 11% of the Confederate Army was made up of enslaved men forced to join. One of these men was Robert Smalls. Smalls was a deckhand on the Confederate supply ship known as the Planter. During his time, Smalls learned as much as he could about navigating the ship so he and others could escape. And on May 13th of 1862, while officers were sleeping, Smalls, along with 16 others, took the Planter out of the Charleston harbor, navigating through all 5 checkpoints while heading to open waters looking for the Union blockade. Smalls raised a white flag of surrender, letting Union soldiers board the ship, giving them guns, ammo, and documents about planned Confederate attacks. Being a wealth of information, Smalls was given the role of the Union Navy captain. Stories like Smalls are one of the many factors convincing President Lincoln to allow free African Americans to serve in the Union Army. This has been a WCPT Veteran Minute.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the upper 80s. Winds out of the northwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Then for tonight, mostly clear with a low near 69. By Wednesday, a slight chance for showers and thunderstorms here late. Blend of clouds and sunshine develops high around 90. And Thursday, slight chance for rain and storms late with a high around 93. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 75.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the show. Make sure you follow the folks at One Aim and reach out to Scott and the work that they're doing there. Yesterday, we had Michelle Duster on, who was talking about the 4th of July, a little bit about Juneteenth, and just, acknowledging this week of 4th of July and American independence. And that's always a conversation, guys. I don't shy away from it, and how we touch and talk about it when it comes to race and racism and sexism and bias in America. These are conversations that when we do have them, we end up strengthening, I believe, our community at large. But there's a lot of people that don't want to talk about it because they don't want to talk about it. I think they're personally, I think they're weak. And they are probably in need of looking in the mirror a little bit more closely. And it's like when women want to get men to talk about sexism and bias there, guys need to be willing to have the conversation if they want to see things improve. I think the same is true, that litmus test is true when it comes to racism and cultural bias. Got a quick clip we're going to play, and then I want to bring on our guest. Devin, let's go to the no being colorblind.
That's part of our proud history as Republicans, the fight against slavery and struggle.
Can I just say something, though? I mean, we talk about this as if it is the past. We've covered stories where people have died, have been killed because of racism. Jacksonville, Florida, the Dollar Tree shooting. I mean, this is happening right now. And this is not just the black community. My last name is Alford, not because my family chose that last name. That is the name of the slaveholding family that owned us. I know the plantation that we are from in South Carolina, and I am here. My father desegregated a school. He remembers those things. So why do we have to talk about it as if it is past? This is right now. The pain is real. The survivors of racism, we are here, right? And so if you don't have a message around that talks about the future, that talks about the present, you cannot lead this country.
Well, Republicans do have a message around it.
It's to ignore it. It's to say that we are colorblind, which does not solve the problem.
But it is to say that we are undoubtedly a better and stronger nation on this front today than we were 10, 20, 40, 50, 150, 180 years ago. We are undoubtedly better as an American people than we ever have been, and that will be true again tomorrow.
It's not because we ignored it. It's because people called out what was uncomfortable, and they challenged the status quo, and they said we need to live up to what the American dream actually is. Those were the people who were demonized. We just celebrated Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was killed. He was killed. He was not considered a favorite or a darling of America because he stood up against racism, against poverty. And actually, the greatest threat was that he was uniting poor white people, right, with poor people of color. That was the greatest threat to America, was that he was willing to bring us together. So again, we have to move past talking about this as if it is history, as if it's not happening right now. And when the Republican Party does this colorblind thing, you're gaslighting people. And they're going to react to that, and they're going to show it at the polls.
Because that's part of our proud history as Republicans.
There you go, guys. Devin and I were leaning on the buttons, and he kept pushing me off. Richard, stop it. There it is. Are we going to lean into it and talk about it? And I've said this for years. Dr. King, Bobby Kennedy, Malcolm, more so than JFK, I believe their assassinations, Medgar Evers, were tied to a common thread, and that is when we bring the middle or lower class folk, if you want to use the caste system in America, together, that's a threat. That's where we are today. That's the reason that those leaders, in my heart, I believe that tied to their assassinations, they were all speaking, bringing folks together. And we got to talk about that. And when we do, it scares the hell out of the power structure. Let's bring on my man, Dante King. Good morning, Professor. How are you today?
I am well, Richard. Great to be with you always.
You probably are upset with me because no, I know you're not upset with me. But good to have you back on the show. I hope you've been doing well these last few weeks since we had you on recently.
I am taking it day by day. Thank you so much. It's such a, as you were playing that clip, all I can think to myself was, wow, wow, wow.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Dante, when you were on last time, I got, and I say this respectfully and embracingly, I caught a lot of heat from people who were like, well, you've got that radical black dude on again, and he's hating white people and all that. And I was like, no, Dante ain't hating white people. Dante wants people to step up and speak truth to the power structures that are causing us to continue to fight each other rather than fight together. The protests a couple of weeks ago were about Americans saying, let's push back on this authoritarianism. And inside of authoritarianism is racism, is bias, is sexism. And so those pushbacks from 13.1 million people were about pushing back on all of the things that separate us. And I maybe I'm crazy, Dante. Maybe you can correct me on this, and I'm down for that. But I have always felt, since I was a young boy, and I started to read and understand that Dr. King, Malcolm, Medgar, and Bobby Kennedy were doing something that was going to freak the hell out of a lot of people, and that was bring poor white folk and poor black folk together, and they just couldn't stand that happening. What say you, my man? I know I threw a lot at you, so.
Well, you really are throwing a lot, and I don't even know what to grab first, but I want to address that reaction that you say you've gotten from people about, bringing me on as the radical black guy, because I do understand how one or many could adopt that perspective. When you hear me saying the things that I say and using the language that I use to talk on this topic, it does sound radical. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. There were so many ways that I did not understand history because we've been sold a hill of beans, for lack of better phrases, and we don't understand the full and true history of this country. And once I understood the intentionality behind trafficking people on purpose and really acknowledging their humanity while you're trafficking them, I think we live by this narrative that somehow white people didn't see black people as human, and that's why they enslaved them. And that could not be further from the truth. And there are so many historical records that demonstrate the reality that white people were dealing with the humanity of black people. When we think about the ways in which white men set the age of consent for young girls at roughly 10 years old, and that's when they rationalized that these young children could be sexually active. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about young European girls, not just African girls. And they set the age of marriage at roughly 12 years old. This is all predation. This is all rooted in predation. And so I evidence, just a sliver of legal examples and laws that were instituted in the colonies that permitted legalized violence, murder, flogging, the beatings and whippings of people who happen to be of African descent predominantly. But these things were intentional. And so when we look at, for example, I believe that was Scott Jennings that you were playing from that clip. Yeah. The malignant narcissism, and in my book I define it as white malignant narcissism, this need and this extreme arrogance and self-centeredness, this need to hold on to these narratives, to constantly see ourselves as good people and rationalize in the face of violence, while violence is going on, while black people are still discriminated against exponentially, while we still, I just was advocating for my brother who's in the hospital this week, while we are still disadvantaged, and to have people deny that reality through their arrogance and hold on to this narrative that is rooted in their need to see themselves as good people, that they somehow are the party of goodwill, they're the party that fought for emancipation, to hold on to that and to then live and repeat a delusional narrative that we're better off than we were 10 years ago. We're better off than we were 20 years ago. Ask Sabrina Fulton. Yeah. Ask people like Michael Brown's mother. Ask people like George Floyd's family. Ask Dante King and his family. We're not better off.
And Dante, and I check this out. This is where the broadness of the conversation is there. The gentleman that I had on just before you, Scott Tinkoff, he, his wife, and his two boys were victims of, although they did not get shot, they were victims of the Highland Park mass shooting that took place a couple of years ago here in Chicago, suburb of Chicago. And to say that I would doubt that when it comes to policy and when it comes to making things better and moving forward, that Scott would say we're better off or that we were better off on that day than we were 5 years prior in the conversation around gun violence. It's that denial that just because the country hasn't collapsed on it and imploded on itself, that we're somehow better off. And it could be talking about women's rights. It could be talking about LGBTQ. It could be talking about gun violence. Policies that are driven with blinders on don't make us better. They just are policies that are driven. And that's one of the things that you do so well at highlighting in your conversation is that, listen, we have to address these things. We got to sit down and say, this stuff happened, y'all. These are problems. Now.
And it's happening.
And it's happening, yes. To what's her name? I'm drawing a blank on her name that was on that segment with Scott Jennings. It's still happening. If it weren't a problem, then it wouldn't still be happening. So how could we be better?
That's right.
How can we actually be better? Yeah. Have you read?
Not at all. You have to deny the realities of black people, black and brown people, in order to have that. And he's holding on. Yes, he's seeing it through the prism of a white male. The lives of white people have gotten better exponentially. Yes, it has. And the racial wealth gap has widened. And the median wealth for black families has decreased since the 1950s, 1960s. So, yes, it's gotten really better for white people. And their racism has gotten really better for them as well. Sorry.
And the But no. Here's the thing. This is the separation from that reality, that cognitive dissonance when it comes to this conversation is what keeps people so frustrated. It's like, yeah, your life has gotten better, Scott Jennings, and that image that you represent. But what about just the women sitting across him at that panel had to help him understand that you're running around acting like you're colorblind. And I'm so tired of this. Let's bring out Lincoln. Every time we want to have a conversation around this. No, let's talk about what's happening today. And I was going to ask you a question. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the author Bernadette Atuahene. She wrote the book Plundered: How Racist Policies Undermine Black Ownership in America. And I had her on the show a few weeks ago, and her book is phenomenal. But the point I want to make as it relates to you and your work is she talks about the systemic part of racist homeownership policies in Detroit and in Wayne County, and how even though she's focusing there, that's true throughout all over and the entire country. That can't be a sign that we've gotten better on that space if we can draw down and say, wait a minute, this was systemic. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't just a couple of people who were off the rails. This was a systemic problem in Detroit, in Wayne County, and overlay that in other communities throughout the country. So that's what I was going to ask you or mention to you.
Oh, for sure. I covered that in my work as well. And in the courses that I teach, I go a lot deeper than just even what I offer in my book. But yeah, when we think about, for example, and I'll just give a few examples. In 1919, the California Supreme Court ruled that racial restrictive covenants could be legally binding documents. These were documents that property owners applied to properties that they built, neighborhoods that they built, where they said only whites could live here. These properties could only be sold to whites. And so in 1919, the larger white populace used their political position as a white race to rally the courts to get these documents upheld. In Illinois, the Illinois Supreme Court in 1924, they upheld the same types of documents. By 1926, in the Corrigan v. Buckley case, the Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, got involved and they upheld that racially restrictive covenants were legally binding documents. That led to states like Ohio, I believe in 1929, Missouri in 1927, those state Supreme Courts ruling that those documents could be recognized as legally binding documents. It set a legal precedent. It basically created legislation that said you could discriminate discriminate against non-white people, and particularly against black people. 100% of the policies that were instituted, state by state, city by city, were aimed at black people. They were aimed against black people. So, no, we did not get here by accident at all. And the other thing that I evidenced, and I included one example of this, or maybe two, in the newest edition of my book, which came out in February, which is titled Diagnosing Whiteness and Anti-Blackness. I included a copy of an actual redlining report that once redlining was introduced in 1935, I introduced one of the reports that was attached through a local city and county's building inspection agency that states that we are intentionally discriminated against black people, and it says this neighborhood could have been rated higher except for the presence of Negroes. Mm-hmm. And when you go to the category, because they had a separate category for Negroes, you see where they included there's a 0.5% of a Negro population in this neighborhood, and that's the reason why they rated it a hazardous neighborhood rather than a declining neighborhood, so D rather than C. So
here's the thing that I got to come back to as it relates to covenants, as it relates to laws, and what a law means and how it works its way up the chain. So last week, the SCOTUS decision with regard to both birthright citizenship and the court's rulings on the federal level. I talked about this yesterday with Michelle Duster, who you know is the great-granddaughter of Ida B. Wells and an author and just a wonderful woman. Basically, this 14th Amendment test is what I'm calling it, is a way to then make it, as I see it, very possible for other they took away, or trying to take away a judge's ability to have reach on something that is going to impact folks all over the country. And I see that as a test to the 14th Amendment when it comes to citizenship, but I also see it as a test to the 13th Amendment as it relates to enslavement. A lot of people may think that that's a reach, but this is how our systemic actions end up sneaking in because people are paying attention to one thing, but not the real meat and substance of it. And that's what covenants did. Covenants were just a small little nibble at the apple, and then they became law across many states because it's the word that you use, which made me go down this path, is the word precedent. It created a precedent.
Yes.
And then another state said, they did it, we can do it here. And the next thing you know, you got a federal law that makes it difficult for people to prosper in this country. So no, Scott Jennings, we are tired of the old statements and tired of the old make yourself feel good language that has allowed him to feel good when he walks home, and others that when they go home that, yeah, we're doing better and I've got my black friends. Dante, talk to me. Go ahead. You're going to say something and I want to ask you a question. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to agree with the point that you were making and then just add what it also sets up, because these are political rulings that are occurring. Let's be very clear. These are very political rulings. It sets it up where we are becoming 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 different countries. Whose politics all are being determined by the court system and how the court system is choosing to reinterpret certain these laws and how they're setting these legal precedents. And it's authorizing various states to be able to pass laws that establish their own political structures. It is dividing us as a country. As they rule, it's dividing us.
Yes, it is.
California is going to look entirely different. I mean, it already is different than a state like Texas, for example, or even Nevada. However, this is going to give a license for these states to look even more different in the ways in which they pass legislation and the types of legislation that they pass. So it's expanded the executive powers, the president's ability to do things and pass these executive orders. But let's be very clear. This is going to, I think we're already at an impasse in terms of people keep saying, we're going to go into a civil war. I just believe we've already been there for many years. People have chosen to not acknowledge it, and it's about to be much worse.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and largely because of the fact that the country won't take the time. The country's afraid, and it's led by particularly those who are in opposition to us coming together. It's led by people who are actually weak. I started off earlier in the show today talking about this whole myth of rugged individualism and people building great, wonderful businesses and lives. It's always been put out there as this sort of American rugged individualism, not communities working together. And in fact, that's what ultimately has made the country as great as it is that communities come together and they work together and they solve problems. The fear for that other side, the Musk of the world and the Peter Thiels of the world and all these other names that so many people are just becoming aware of, and their destruction is that they didn't build it on their own. And their fear is when others who are coming together really do come together, that's where they get exposed, and that's where their so-called greatness gets really put on Front Street, to use a phrase. So, Dante, quick question as we kind of wrap up, and thanks again for being with us this morning. And I know this is a big question, so as succinctly as you can, I'm sorry, man. What are your thoughts? What are your feelings? I've been touching the third rail this week with this whole conversation around Juneteenth and American independence, i.e. the 4th of July. So just give us a couple of snippets of your observations of the 4th of July.
I think Frederick Douglass did a great job in a speech that he gave. I wish I had it so I could quote from it. But, he talked about how this country was hypocritical, how, the leaders who were in charge of, launching this great holiday and who celebrated it perpetually, were doing so. They're celebrating freedom while maintaining the institution of slavery. We still celebrate this holiday as though, again, this is some great country. We declared independence, several hundred years ago. Independence for white men, and that's what was enshrined in the Naturalization Act of 1790, which said that citizenship was based on whiteness. And so, I just think it's a white holiday. It's a holiday for white people to celebrate how they got their independence, and that's what it represents. I think when we get to Juneteenth, I'm glad that there's an acknowledgement of the reality of this country's past in terms of slavery and the ways that it impacted, it grew America's position in the world through trafficking people who were predominantly of African descent. I'm glad that there's some acknowledgement of that, but this country needs to go much, 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 much further in terms of acknowledging what we were talking about a moment ago, which was how it used its institutions to declare war against African Americans once African Americans were given citizenship through the 14th Amendment. We don't have to go back to slavery to acknowledge discrimination, and I'm talking about legalized discrimination. We can look at everything that the legislatures did, the state legislatures did. We can look at the things that the Supreme Court of the United States did when it ruled in the public accommodations ruling in 1883 that it was legal to discriminate against people, even based on race. Yep. We can look at the Plessy v. Ferguson ruling in 1896, and again, look at state by state and at the federal level how the United States of America used its institutions to legally discriminate against Black American citizens. So, those are some brief thoughts.
Listen, I know Michelle Duster spoke to this as well yesterday. What to the slave is the 4th of July? And that's the speech you're talking about. And it's something that I ask all Americans to Google Frederick Douglass's speech in that space this week as you celebrate the 4th of July and American, quote, independence. Think about those 89 years that I talked about yesterday between the end, quote, of enslavement and the end of the Civil War, if you will, and go back to 1776, which was the, quote, independence of the United States of America. And for 89 years, that's what, almost 3 generations, Dante, there were people who were still not free. They're enslaved by the country that said that we're independent and we're free. So just take a moment, America. Take the moment and ask yourself that how many 89-year-old people are alive in your family? And think about that in relationship to that person's lifetime, equating to the time between the end of the beginning of America's, quote, independence, July 4th, 1776, to the end of enslavement in 1865, if you want to round it up from 1863, 1862, 1865, depending on where you land with regard to Juneteenth. That's the conversation. That's the conversation America is afraid to really have on this on this celebration of the July 4th.
That's right. And then if you look at the policies that were passed in the 1960s, such as the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the Housing Act of 1968, and then you go into the 1970s and you look at how those programs start to be eroded through the San Antonio ruling, which I believe was 1973. Then you've got the Bakke ruling in 1978. There's another ruling in 1974 that says it's legal for schools to discriminate. All of those rulings happened in the 70s. You get to the 1980s, you've got the legalization, not to just federally criminalize drug dealers, but drug users. Yep. And that was due to the crack epidemic. And that happened in 1988 under Ronald Reagan. So, again, we can look at federal and state policy, but we have to look at the court decisions that followed where the majority of the white race got together and began to undermine the rights that have been given to non-white people and how they use the court systems to do it. And that's what my work focuses on mostly.
The institutionalism of bias in our country, whether it be racial, cultural, gender in terms of the LGBTQ community. Unfortunately, it is part of the fabric that the folks like Scott Jennings don't want to really accept. So, Dante King, rabble rouser, man that makes a bunch of noise and all that good stuff. It's good to have you with us this morning, man.
Follow me. At DanteKing.com.
Just go to DanteKing.com. You'll be amazed at what you find, but you probably will find something that will amaze you. Thanks, my man, for being with us. Have a great rest of the week. We'll talk soon. All right, guys, we got to wrap it up. As always, take a deep breath and make your life count. Choose Views. We'll see you tomorrow.